Welcome to the Postville Yeshiva Alumni Podcast, where alumni share memories, experiences, and life lessons with the current Talmidim. We hope you enjoy.
So, this is. I told them Berky Chein. They asked me the Berky Chein. I said, yeah, the Berky Chein. Isn't he 200 years old right now? No, it's the Berky Chein is younger. So, begin. We'll give you the tell us how you got to Postville and your journey.
Hi, I'm Berky Chein. My great-grandfather is the Berky Chein that you're all thinking of from all the stories. My journey to Postville. I grew up in Crown Heights, went to Torah Elementary School for all the way through 8th grade, finished Torah Elementary School, went to, for Shir and I wasn't really feeling the Torah style vibe. So I went to a place called in upstate New York, Yeshiva. Shir that wasn't really a good fit for me over there. So I checked out, I went to New Haven to try it out for Shabbos. I went to Staten Island back then, I think it's Westchester, to try it out. Didn't really feel connected to any of those things, and we went to Postville for Shir Bays. Had I think a great time there. That wasn't where I was going to end up staying for my future. So for Shir Gimel, I went to Buffalo, Rabbi Munitz's yeshiva. After that, was not really feeling like learning so much. I ended up starting to work, and then ended up in Wilkes-Barre for a year. After Wilkes-Barre, 19 years old, I decided I'm done with yeshiva and went to get a job and moved on from all of that. Nowadays, I'm 34, married for 10 and a half years, have 3 kids, Nahara. I'm living in Baltimore.
These days, I manage operations for a high-end business-to-business travel agency.
Okay, so I want to share a little bit how I got Berky to come to this particular podcast. I'm trying to reach out to all my old alumni to find out. And one day I get a random email from Berky Chein. So before I say what the email was about, I wrote him back, is this the Berky Chein from Postville? So he said, yeah. Like, I need to speak to you. Send me your phone. And we had a long phone conversation. So what was the email about? Berky, if you can share what that email was all about.
Sure. So the email I sent was, it was during the Torah of teshuva. I sent an email to 35 or 40 Chabad yeshivas, principals, whatever, administrators, about 2 articles I had written. One was a public op-ed on Crown Heights Info about alcohol awareness and some abuse, and just general lack of emotional healing and or emotional health and wellness knowledge in the Chabad communities. And then together with that was my own personal teshuva type story of saying goodbye to unhealthy drinking, focusing on my own emotional health and wellness, and working on becoming a better person for myself, for my family, for my future.
Did anybody else respond to you besides me?
I got a few responses. I got a response from yeshiva in Australia. I'm not sure which yeshiva it was. I'm not the main one, but one of the ones that were on the list. The list that I sent to is all the Igud HaYeshivas. So whoever is part of that, plus a few other yeshivas that I knew that weren't on the list. And he said the same thing that I said, is we know that there's in general a problem with teenagers, bochur, not bochur, anybody. Teenagers often don't have aren't equipped with the skills to think about or know about their own emotional health or wellness. And when they're carrying pain, trauma, too much burden for a 15 or 16, 17-year-old boy to know how to handle, or girl, whatever it is, they'll turn to numbing or with any sort of way. So from use writing alcohol or drugs, or just in general, wherever people are looking for answers to not deal with what they're holding on to. Mm-hmm. And it would be great, he said it would be great if any other yeshivas have, ideas, or if there's any sort of infrastructure that can be more helpful, would be amazing. Please share, please, connect us back after if you get anything. So thinking about that. some other responses were just, yes, this is a very big problem. We know about it. Or we don't even, sometimes we think it's just alcohol is just alcohol, but so, without realizing that what is missing or what the alcohol is filling for some people, why they're turning to it, why they're relying on it, what they're missing or potentially missing by not having healthier tools. Yeah, it's just an important conversation in general for everybody, especially in Hanhala and in school administration, adults, whatever, to be thinking of when it comes to how we treat alcohol in general as adults.
There's no real solution that anyone has suggested about the alcohol. It's more about going back to the original problem about the emotional health and wellness.
For the most part, yes. Obviously, when it comes to alcohol specifically, I know it's a very tough conversation in Chabad or in general yeshivas, where in general Judaism we say, wine is okay. Wine is the mitzvah to make kiddush on wine, havdalah, everything else. But you go from having 1 cup of wine for kiddush to 2-3 cups at the meal, and then you're having a little more after the meal. So you're opening the bottle and starting as holy, and then without realizing it can turn very quickly to unholy. Or 1 l'chaim, 2 l'chaim that if a bringing can accomplish a lot. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 turns into very big problems for the people involved, or without even realizing what the problems are that they're having and why they're going there. So no one's saying we should get rid of it for the entire world completely. No one's saying everybody should be having it. For some people, a little bit is good. For some people, nothing is good, depending on what they know. But in general, the bigger problem is the lack of what has to start before Mesifta, before Zal, already as younger kids, is stories of, Shmuel Munkus this or that. Wasn't that he was, drunk and flipping over, light poles in the window because of whatever it was. It was, the Hashem, and whether there was alcohol involved or not doesn't matter. And just in general, there's other ways to connect to God and to connect to Rebbe, to connect to Chassidim, to connect to the Farbrengen, to connect to friends, family, whatever it is, without needing to numb yourself, or to feel that the only way I can connect is if I release a level. The question is, why do I need to? What do I feel like I'm missing that I have to connect? That I need something else to do for me that I can't do on my own. That's work to do, to focus on what I'm, not able to do on my own, because I should be able to do everything for myself. Tools are great, a little here, a little there as needed, but it's still knowing that it's a tool, it's not the real work. And the real work is being able to do things.
What do you say about bains that they have today in many yeshivas and communities?
I've been part of many.
Before you answer, no, I want to just point out, like you're basically saying that, but very often the people that are drinking is only because they're trying to numb pain, and there's a deeper issue. But would you agree that there are people that are just drinking for fun without trying to numb pain, just enjoy that feeling and that's it?
Enjoy the feeling, sure. I know a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of places where you can have fun without alcohol. So what we're potentially saying is that people don't know how to have fun and how to connect and have an open, honest conversation without going to use another substance. And the only way to get to that level of fun is by unlocking the door, by putting something else in. Other people can do that without alcohol. Other people can do it only, with other substances. So if to say the only way to do it is, I don't know how to have a honest conversation, or I don't know how to be spontaneous, I don't know how to be funny, I don't know how to crack a joke, without first having 1, 2, 3 drinks, we ask ourselves why. What are we scared of? For me, honestly, back in the Bain days, a lot of the question, looking back now, was what was I scared that I might say or not say, or be able to connect or not connect if I just let myself be completely free. And it's a very scary thought, knowing what I knew about myself, that I didn't want to let people to get too close. I did not have good emotional knowledge or even language for any of that as a kid, as a teenager. So starting drinking in Shir Aleph at Farbrengens, and then in camp and at Baines and Farbrengens and everything else was like, oh, hey, this is easy. Why do I have to? I don't know how to do it any other way, and now that I have a way to do it, it's just working. Let's just keep going. Without realizing what was missing, which I now have language for.
So back to the Baines. So
back to the Baines. Baines are there's a lot of if the only way that I can connect to my friends is over a bottle of alcohol, then either they're not my friends or I don't know how to connect. So I have a problem that I need the Bain to drink. It happens to be after a long stressful week, or for a lot of people after a long stressful day, they want to have a beer to relax or to unwind. It makes sense, but what type of stress or life work is really going on for 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old that says the only way that I can get to that point is with specifically alcohol that I can't do with a glass of tea, or I can't do with a warm bowl of soup, or I must have this other tool or substance to get me to that place. Can I do meditation? Can I think about something? Can I, how can I get inside my head or my body to regulate without needing a substance?
So there are bochur in all yeshivas that do Baines, and here there might be one or two also, probably less, but whatever. What would you tell a bochur that does?
I see a hand rising. Is that for a lot of Bain back there?
He's pointing fingers at other people.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, okay, sure, that's question. Could you hear him?
Yes.
No. Testing. There's this story with Nach when he first came out of the table. He planted a vineyard and got drunk. Shmuel Benjamin was giving a shiur the other day about how he wanted to be on a higher madrega. So in a certain sense, you see how the alcohol can bring you to make you feel closer to Hashem.
I didn't hear the first part.
He's saying that he heard a shiur that the reason why Noach planted the wine, the vineyard, is in order to reach a higher level. So he claims that from there you see that wine could bring you to a higher level.
Was Noach right in everything that he did?
Obviously not. I'm saying you see that it does bring
a little bit. If he drank wine, if he had a little bit of wine, if he made kiddush and connected on top one level, would have been amazing. He ended up drinking, barrels and barrels, and we know where the story ended up, that he surpassed the level of where he needed to be by abuse. So it started off, he could have done amazing with connecting to his avodah from 1 cup, 2 cups, whatever it was that he needed. He also could have done that with planting other things, or preparing a big meal for his family or something else. But he ended up going to wine, drinking too much, and the story didn't end well for him or a very large part of his family.
Okay, so I want to continue again into the sourdough, so we'll jump to that right now. So once I got onto Berkey's mailing list, now I signed up for his weekly Dvar Torahs. I had a whole fight with him last week about his Dvar Torah, but we're both stubborn, we're both not giving in, so we'll leave that argument alone. But so it has to do with sourdough. So what's with you on sourdough?
Sourdough during COVID, like a lot of other people, I started baking sourdough because we needed something to pass the time. I stopped after a few months because it was taking too long, and then work picked back up and whatever. Last year, my wife asked me to start baking again because she really liked it, and no one wants to pay the prices that the stores charge for a loaf of sourdough, $15, $17 a loaf they charge. I said at that point, I have no time or patience for this. You do it, I'll show you how. So I started trying to teach her. Didn't go so well. She doesn't have the patience that I have for that. She has a lot of other things going on. So by the third week, I was basically doing it all myself. And then I said, okay, I'm back to doing it the way I used to. But now she like nudged me back in by that. I love the process. I work from home, so I have time in between. I'll get to work, but in between meetings or other things, I have timers. I run upstairs to the kitchen, and I'm doing the dough and stretching and folding or whatever it is. Baking, same idea. I have timers going off the whole day. But thinking about the idea of bread as a very simple life force, two very basic ingredients, flour, water, and turning that into one of the most delicious kinds of breads that I can think of, that's healthy and nourishing and put some extra flavors in there for fun. Thinking of Torah that way also. It's words on a parchment, but you can go on the most simple level of pasuk shot of a pasuk or a Torah, and there's so many other layers you can connect to: Kabbalah, Chassidus, Midrashim, Mefarshim, writers, teachers, publications from all different places, and thinking of how my life and my baking and my learning and everything is going on together turns into a little bit of a blog for the mailing list.
So that's what. So your whole blog is relatively new. It's only a few months.
My blog started February or March
Of 2025.
2025, yeah, new.
Oh, you know. So Berky sends out a weekly Dvar Torah connected to sourdough. You made yourself a logo, Lechem Chein or something.
Lechem Chein, that's the last name Chein. If anyone's ever spent time in Israel, if you go through the towns, you have Misaper Chein, Ma'asiyah Chein, everything's Chein, Chein, Chein. They use the Chein means grace or beauty, so a lot of companies capitalize on that, and having been there and seen that, I'm like, this is a perfect way to integrate the Chein of life into that concept. So it's not always about sourdough. It's not always. Sometimes we'll connect whatever's going on in life or in the parsha or whatever to a connection to the sourdough. The same way the sourdough does X, Y, Z, we can also in our own avodah or in our own life or whatever react in certain ways. Or the same way that the sourdough starter starts as you have to have patience, you have to have time, and you have to watch it. You have to watch it grow, and you have to feed it and take care of it like a baby. That's also ways that we can also do in our own work, our own avodah, things like that.
Mm-hmm. So can we get a sneak peek of this Dvar Torah of this week? I mean, I want to point out when most of the alumni that I asked them to come on, they all say, I'm not a podcast person, I don't talk. And that was the Berkey's reaction also. I told him this Sunday, he said, oh, it's Lech Lecha. Go out of your habits. Okay, I'll break myself. I'll come on the path. Let's go beyond myself. But what's going to be on this week's Dvar Torah that you're going to share?
Lechem Chein for Parshas Lech Lecha. It might be connected to this, and sharing so going back to, yes, today's Lech Lecha, sure, but even we were saying before about sending that email to 40 people, the 40 principals, or even posting the articles that I did online, all of those types of things are all ideas of Lech Lecha, where it's stepping outside of my comfort zone. Growing up as a teenager, especially as a bochur, I was quiet. I didn't talk to anybody. I was catching up with one of my uncles recently. When I was in 8th grade, he used to take me on his Mitzrayim route to Manhattan. And after a while, I went for a few months. After a while, I stopped going. He's like, time we were talking, he's like, why did I end up leaving? Whatever. I'm like, oh, this guy left, that guy left, his other chavrusos, so like it ended up winding down. He's like, you never used to talk back then. I'm like, no, I literally did not. Like, I would walk in, say, Shalom Aleichem to whatever store it was that we were going into. But then I would just stand there and do my part of just being an extra smile in the room, but not connecting to the Mitzrayim that was going on, or the Dvar Torah or whatever what he was talking about, or the Yom Tovim or anything. I was there. I was going on the Mitzrayim, something to do. So speaking up and sharing my story and sharing things that I have from my childhood or my teenage years or whatever, as ways to, as I'm learning more about myself and my own journey, my own process of becoming a better version of me, also realizing that how everything things that I'm learning or feeling or going through are universal, and Torah is forever and it's for everybody. So if I have a perspective on the way I think of it is, when I see life through the glasses that I'm wearing on my face, and you see life through the glasses you're wearing on your face, we can both be looking at the same sign, the same picture, the same anything, but we see it differently. Also, if you look at a piece of art or something, everyone has their own perspective, the way they tune in, or the way they understand, or the way they, whatever it is about what they're looking at. And on my side, if it's helpful for me, and using the truths or stories out of Torah, it can be helpful for other people. So speaking up and sharing and being more public in the hopes that somebody else can potentially not have to, wait so long to be in this space has been the push for me to speak and to join here. And yes, Lech Lecha. Thinking about Lech Lecha though on a practical level, yes, we all know the Lech Lecha Meretz, step out of your comfort zone. But the Medrash says, Avram took Sarai in the box into Mitzrayim, and when they opened the box, her light, her beauty, her radiance filled the entire land. So yes, if we're in the box, we're quiet and we're boxed in, and the world doesn't know anything. But if we step out of our box and we get out of our own head, out of our own stories, out of our own guilt, shame, trauma, pain, whatever it is that we're carrying, we have the opportunity to light up the entire land with not even doing anything, just by being there. And especially if you do something, also can be even better.
Mm-hmm. You being there with the Mitzrayim was also something.
That was something. A story actually I heard over Pesach. I shared it with your brother in Baltimore. I don't know if he shared it with you. You can get into the little bit of family connection that we have. Over Pesach, I heard a story from an Elter Chosid or something in Crown Heights. He was saying the story of my Elter Chosid Reb Berke Chein in the early years when he first came by the Rebbe. The Rebbe was telling him what a shluchah should be. The story that this guy told me that I'm remembering, so I don't know, how many details got mistranslated or whatever it was your shluchos is to go to kibbutzim all around Israel. You're going to take a taxi to get there, so you're going to, maximize your time. You're going to get there. You're going to get out of the taxi. You're going to not go in, not talk to anybody, not do anything. Get back in the taxi and turn back and go back home. And he did that for, I guess, a few times. After a while, he ended up going in. They invited him in. He would bring with the people. But at the beginning, and the Rebbe would also partially, some of the money he was collecting for Rebbe's Minyanim would go to pay some of these taxi bills. But at the beginning, the avodah was just go, show up, let the people see just the seer of a chassid, and that can be enough in some cases to be piled more than the fanciest speeches or podcasts or classes or whatever it is. Sometimes just being there, quiet to yourself, doing your own thing, not talking to anybody can be enough either for them or for you on a connection level. So who knows what just me being there did for me or for them, I don't know. But just hearing that story, all those years later, really connected to that. And if I just show up or even speak a little bit or even connect, who knows where that'll go.
Yeah, we'll wrap up over here. So just a memory of Postville. It's for the bochur. Something funny, something interesting.
Something funny, something interesting. I have to say Purim was probably the high level. Purim that year.
What year were you here again? What year was it?
I was there 2006, 2007. So the year before the raid.
So before the raid.
Before the raid the last year. So that year, Gidon had triplets that year. One passed away, yeah. So Gidon, there was that. Purim was Matzah Shabbos that year. There was a major blizzard the 2 days before and also 2 weeks before. So by the time Purim came around, there was 1.5 feet, 2 feet of snow in Postville. After Megillah on Sunday morning, Shol Mordechai rented a horse and buggy. He was dressed in a whole fancy tuxedo thing. He had music speakers going from his van, and we paraded all around town, trudging through mountains of snow, getting into everyone's houses, a little shikar, a little not shikar, dancing, being in Simchas Yom Tov, and eventually heading back to Sourdough and the old Shul building. Really good times.
No, this used to be the Dominican Postville. Mark would rent a horse and buggy, and that was around the whole Purim to go around from house to house. Before you were born.
You should do it this year.
You should do it this year. Out to Mashka Park on the instructions. Just go around and that's it. It caused a big mess in many houses. The bochur came in with all the snow, and after they left, they had to clean up. It took forever to clean up the whole mess that they brought in. By the way, you told me
not always do you,
right?
Not always do you have snow there.
Yeah, but often put in the snow. You said you have a video of it. I'm still waiting for you to send the video.
I do have a video. I'll have to. It's in a closet. I have to pull it out. I took back. I like videography, photography. So back then I had a video camera, and around the whole town. I've from your house, from everyone's houses, and Shul Mordechai speeches and stuff, to pull it out and send it to you.
Well, we're looking forward to that. Okay, last question. That's we usually ask. What's your favorite sikha? I'll ask you what's your favorite mitzvah.
Favorite mitzvah. It's always changing. Favorites are not forever. Currently, I'm really connected to, and I enjoy the idea of Netilas Yadayim and just having an opportunity, number one, in the morning, before eating food, before anything, to take a minute and focus on being present, thinking of washing your hands, especially it's usually cold water, is almost like a shocking moment, grounding yourself in what I'm about to do. What I'm about to do is either davening, or I'm about to eat something, put food in my body, davening, whatever it is in the morning, just for a moment to tap into being present and thinking about the Hashem in front of me that prepared food for me, and being thankful for the body that I have, being thankful for having food on my table, being thankful for having healthy food, and using that as a segue into being mindful of not eating unhealthy food, not doing unhealthy things with the body that I have in front of me, that Hashem's giving me. So cutting out, foods or drinks or other things that are toxic for my body. That's a way to just be thankful and grateful. So even something and going from there into Pirush Milas by eating brachas of food or davening. So yes, make a bracha bar priya 8, take a bite of an apple, but then I'll say thank you Hashem for this, amazing apple. Actually, taking another bite, not just davening as quick as I can because we have 50 pages to finish in 45 minutes, but actually I usually daven from the Weiss edition siddur the Kahas made, and taking a paragraph, 2, 3, whatever it is, from different places. Berkat Shachar has so much going on to actually connect to and feel about day-to-day avodah, even before the day gets too hectic. Thinking about just what are things. If I even learn 1-2 minutes of learning today, I was yaitza because there's no shear on that. If I even give a drop of tzedakah, I'm yaitza my mitzvah of that, because there's other things you have to do, b'harchava and so many levels. But if there's even a small level, something I can do that capitalizes on what I need to do, it's great.
Okay. Thank you very, very much.